All right, fam. And we are live. Let me close out my email here so you don't get weird notifications. Hello, everyone. My name is Danny Segura. You may know me from MMA Fighting. Obviously, my work previously with the MMA Hour and the MMA Beat. And this is your UFC Shenzhen preview, aka I can talk about the news of the week and whatever else is going on in the world of MMA, which there's actually plenty to talk about. And actually, most of it is not surrounding the fight card of this weekend. So, pretty interesting week, a very odd one. A lot of news popping up, some good, some not so great. Um, and yeah, so I'm going to talk about UFC Shenyang here. And then, after, as I do usually on these chats, I'm going to take questions at the very end. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to give you my thoughts on UFC Shenyang, which there's honestly not a whole lot to talk about besides the main and co-main event. I actually have some interesting thoughts on the co-main event. It's a good one, a sneaky good one. And then after that, I'll take questions on the card plus news of the week. So anything goes. To submit a question, you can either reply to me on Twitter and I'll make sure to take a look at that, or you can just throw them on the chat. So I'm going to pop out the chat right now and I will take the questions on in chronological order. So, throw the questions whenever you want, at whatever point you want. So let's get into it. UFC Fight Night Andrade versus Zhang, Weili Zhang. So this is actually a pretty interesting bout. This is a title fight for the strawweight division. This will be Andrade's first title defense since winning the belt from Rose Namajunas in Brazil. We obviously remember and know that infamous knockout slam that she used to get the belt against Rose Namajunas. One of the best knockouts I think of the year. One of the most brutal ones. In fact, a lot of people question whether we should ban those kind of slams after the fight. So, yeah, pretty brutal stuff. But you can't expect anything less from Andrade. So that's just the way it goes. So this is actually a pretty good fight. It is a little bit buried. A lot of people don't know it's actually going on, but it is happening, and it is happening this weekend. So interesting. Just giving you the time slots here because I didn't even know much of the time slots until a few days ago. This card is at weird hours, man. So the preliminary card is gonna air at 3 a.m. That is on Saturday, right? Saturday night, or yeah, it'd be like Friday night, Saturday morning at 3 a.m. Honestly, the prelims, uh, I cover the sport for a living, obviously with MMA fighting, and to be honest, I haven't heard most of the guys on the prelims or girls, which is quite bad. And out of the let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven prelim bouts, which will air on ESPN, three, so that'd be 14 fighters. Only three of those have Wikipedia pages. So that should tell you a little bit about how deep this card is, which is not at all. I mean, familiar face there on the prelims. Obviously, Andre Sukumtaj, very exciting fighter. That bantamweight fighter who's been fighting for the UFC already for some time. Still a fairly new face, but he's got enough fights that you kind of know who he is. Obviously, we saw him fighting Sean O'Malley, and he's got a few fights in there. Some pretty good fights. In fact, the one with O'Malley won fight of the night. So, he's an exciting prospect, young guy. I believe he's coming off a loss and he's had some mixed results in the UFC, but nonetheless, an exciting fighter to watch and keep an eye on. Other than that, man, I don't really know much about the prelims, so it's a bit of a rough one. And on the main card, to be honest, I can't say something much different. That card is actually going to is going to start at 6 a.m., which is actually not too bad. I do enjoy my fights with a good cup of coffee. So the ones that always happen in Europe that air early in the morning on Saturday, obviously not as early as this, but usually around 10 a.m. and stuff like that. I've always enjoyed. I think it's a nice little change in pace. Um, so yeah, I will watch the main card. I will set my alarm a little early. I wonder if you guys will too, and I'll watch that main card because there are some good fights. The main event and the co-main event are amazing. Not big names, not any of we're used to like the money era and all these big fights, but um, I mean, these are good fights. If you're a fight fan, you're gonna watch these, right? Whether you're gonna watch them live or later, these are fine matchups. These are pretty good matchups. Now, they're not huge names. There's not a lot of trash talk going on, but the action itself, the matchup itself, and also the significance it has. Obviously, the one of the top being a title fight, but the co-main event actually has some pretty interesting stakes. Especially for Saliki, who I'm a big fan of, a guy that's been flying under the radar in the welterweight division for quite a while. So that was kind of just like the little overview there. So again, 3 a.m. ESPN prelims. Good luck if you're gonna catch that, and then 6 a.m. main card. That'd be on ESPN Plus, so not yet regular ESPN. All right, so the main event: Jessica Andrade versus Weili Zhang. Pretty interesting main event. These two are I would say Andrade by miles is the most powerful strawweight to have ever lived. I mean, that woman was strong at 135, 20 pounds less, 20 pounds south, and obviously she's going to be the strongest. I mean, the amount of power she has, and she has it all. She has power everywhere. And the way I mean that is, you get a lot of guys say, remember Sean Shark, just, the muscle shark, just super stocky guy, super strong wrestler, right? But when it came down to knockouts, never generated anything. You can be strong as hell. You can work out. You can be jacked as hell. You could be physically very, very, very strong, but that doesn't guarantee you will have knockout power. Andrade is one of those few fighters that have both in knockout power and also strength power, like wrestling wise. So she is just a powerhouse everywhere, and she's a handful for anybody at strawweight, literally anybody. Weili Zhang, I would say she's also one of the strongest. I would say second strongest behind Andrade at that division. Now she has a little bit more of an athletic build in the sense of, more speed, more explosiveness, faster, quicker, faster reflexes. Right, still carries a lot of power, but not nearly as much as Andrade. This is the way I see this fight going. It can go either way. I favor Jessica Andrade in this one, but I favor Jessica Andrade just about any against any strawweight. Okay, so yeah, keep that in mind. What the key to beating Andrade here is Andrade doesn't do all that well with angles, doesn't do all that well with fighters that are slick, stick and move, distance control, right? Fighters that are constantly changing sides, cutting corners, right? Weili Zhang has the tools to do that, has the tools to pull off a strategy kind of like Yana Jacek did, kind of like Rose did until she got knocked out with that slam. She has all that. She's very quick. She's got a good jab, a fast jab. She has good low kicks, masks them well, and she throws them often as well. Again, very athletic fighter and can do that. However, although she has the skill set and the ability to pull that off, which I believe that's the way to go about any fight with Andrade. You can't meet her with power. You can't meet her fire with fire. That's just not going to work. She's going to hit harder and she's going to be stronger, period. I mean, there's no debate in that. So she has the skills to pull that off. However, I'm not entirely sold that she has the style to pull that off. If you look at her fight against Tisha Torres, which I believe it was her last fight, right? Her last win. Yes. Back in March this year. Fantastic performance. But Tisha Torres, again, another, you can throw that trio and maybe also Claudia Gadella as some of the strongest strawweights. Tisha Torres is a fantastic athlete, right? And yet, Weili Zhang met her power with power. There was a lot of scrambles there that she muscled her way through them, and she just happened to be the stronger fighter, and it ended up working for her. I really don't think she can pull that off against Andrade. She's gonna have to be slick, and I don't know if she can. So if she goes head to head with Andrade, if she meets fire with fire, I do believe Andrade is going to be the stronger fighter and is going to bully her way through a lot of positions, a lot of positions in the clinch, on the ground, in the striking department. Uh, Obviously, I see Weili having some sort of success, but not maybe a whole lot. If she were to win this fight, and I think I feel pretty strong about this. I think if she were to win this fight, it'd be about being slick again, pulling off a strategy like Rose Namajunas did, or also Yana Jacek. But that is very difficult to do. And even then, even if you pull it off to a T, there's still a lot to deal with Andrade, and it can get you in some trouble. Obviously, we saw Rose Namajunas having one of the best rounds of her career against Andrade, and yet we saw how that fight turned out. So pretty interesting main event. Honestly, it could go either way. I think Weili has what it takes to win. However, I'm very confident that Jessica Andrade is going to pull this one off. And look, a lot of people are complaining about this fight. Like, hey, look, this is not big enough. Look, this is kind of buried. Well, it is a little buried to that. I'm not going to lie of, but they're using this fight to break into a market that could potentially mean a lot for the UFC. And also, look, you got to get these title fights rolling. Not every single fight is going to be huge, right? Like that pay per view against Rose, that felt like a big fight at that division. Not every fight is going to be like that, right? Not every title defense has to be big. So just get these rolling. The more the champions get the reps in, the more the champions defend the belt, right? The bigger eventually those fights become. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be an exciting fight. Weili Zhang hasn't lost since her first fight, professional fight ever, her professional MMA debut, which was back in 2013. So think about that. That was a long time ago. And since she's racked up 19 straight wins, very Henan Barao-esque. She's just been on a complete tear, and she's been extremely dominant in her UFC run. So interesting stuff. And Andrade is has had some losses, but she's proved to be an elite. Now, so that is your main event. Pretty solid main event. Now, the co-main event is one that I am looking forward to a lot. If you followed me for a while, on the MMA beat and on the MMA hour, I've probably given a lot of props to the Leech. Maybe not often just around the time he fights, but every time he fights, that's always somebody I have my eye on. I honestly think the Leech, um, he's I'm not gonna go as far as saying he's one of the best welterweights, but I will say he can pose a lot of problems to some of the best welterweights, and he can put competitive fights against the elite. Like that guy's really good. He's tough as hell, which that alone can get you very far in the UFC. He's physically extremely strong, which that's always a plus. And on top of that, he's super well rounded. The dude can wrestle, the dude can strike. So if he can't succeed in an area, when fighting someone, he can just switch it up and switch gears, whether it's wrestling, striking, and he could be a lot of problems, man. Elizeu Zaleski, man, this guy, what can I say about him? 32 years old. He's been in the UFC for some time now, since 2015. So, about 4 years, a little bit over 4 years. He lost his UFC debut, but since he's just been racking up wins. So the guy's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fight win streak. And yet, for some reason, he really hasn't been able to, I wouldn't say not necessarily get the UFC's attention, but maybe not the UFC support. I mean, we saw, for example, Jorge Masvidal, the dude. I've been interviewing that dude since like 2015, and he's always been an OG. He's been the same guy that he is today years ago. Like he hasn't changed. This is no Colby Covington performance or whatever. The dude's been, an OG since day one, and for some reason he never got the push, and now that he's getting the push, we see how far that can go. Obviously, scoring the fastest knockout in UFC history, being the first person to defeat Ben Askren, the knockout stuff there until as well. All that obviously adds it and put him on a bigger stage. But nonetheless, we do see there's a UFC push there, right? I mean, just last week I was in a ATT media day. I got sent out from MMA fighting to Florida to talk to several guys, including Jorge Masvidal, and obviously that was organized by the UFC and all that. So there is some kind of push, and his management's doing a good job at putting him out there. Um, but nonetheless, I mean, you could have promoted that guy like way earlier, and maybe he wouldn't have been the star that he is now because, like I said, he needed the platform, he needed the knockouts, 3 piece and the soda, all that. But nonetheless, he would have been a much bigger player than he ever was in his career if he would have been promoted properly back then. I feel like Eliseo is kind of in a similar spot. I don't know. I don't believe his English is all that well, obviously from Brazil, so there is an issue there. But nonetheless, I mean, this is a guy that's been scoring flying knockouts. He's been scoring a lot of knockout submissions. Always super exciting fighter to watch, and he's been very dominant. I think he's missing a big name. So against the Leech here, he got the step up in competition, but I don't necessarily think he got the step up in names. So this is a big gamble for him because, again, like I said, the Leech is a very, very tough dude here. And again, not a very big name. Also, this fight card is kind of buried. It's happening at 6 a.m. Not a whole lot of people know about this, and there's been very little promotion behind it, at least on the American side. I can't speak for China or anywhere else, but at least on the America side, I haven't really heard much about this card. So It is a co-main event, though. He is getting a little shine as far as like card placement, but I don't know how much that's worth, keeping in mind everything that I mentioned prior. So good fight. I'm excited for this fight. I'm not so stoked in the type of opportunities that he is getting. I do believe if he gets past the Leech, he better get like a big name. He better get like a veteran. He like Carlos Condit, who is just booked to fight Mickey Gall, or I don't know, Showtime Pettis, Wonderboy Thompson, Robbie Lawler, you name it. Any of those big names, he needs to face that if he gets obviously past the Leech, which that's a very tough task. But is he even in the rankings? Let me see. Um, yeah, he's ranked at 14th. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, just above him is Robbie Lawler, and then above that is Anthony Pettis. I mean, Anthony Pettis is what 1-1 at welterweight. His only win was over Steven Thompson, and he's ranked higher than Dos Santos, Elizeu, who's been on a 7-fight win streak and been getting finishes. So, I mean, name value is very important in these rankings. Win streak, performance, not so much, right? And one fight can get you higher ranked than 7 wins, right? One win can get you higher ranked than 7 wins. So, yeah, hopefully he gets that push and he gets a big name. RDA, I don't know, you name it, but um, he first has to get past the Leech. So we'll see how that goes. But that fight right there should get Fight of the Night awards. I believe the Leech in his last like 5 fights, he's won like 4 performance of the night bonuses, whether it is fight night or like crazy knockout or something like that. I mean, this has the potential to be one of the best fights of the year. So very I'm looking forward to that fight. I'll be enjoying it with a nice cup of Colombian coffee and some pericos too. So that's basically what I got for UFC Shenzhen. I mean, other than that, those 2 fights, this is really a local card. I mean, the names there, like I said, 14 out of the prelim fighters, only 3 of them have Wikipedia pages. I've only heard of only a handful. And again, I do this for a living, so that should tell you a lot of things about this card. But nonetheless, the co-main event and the main event are worth watching. Very, very good matchups, very good fights that mean a lot for their respective divisions. Obviously, the top one being a title fight, obviously. All right. So with that out of the way, I'm going to take your questions. All right. So again, these could be about anything. These could be about the card in specifically, or these could be about the crazy news week that we've had so far. Okay. So I'm going to open up the chat here. Danny, call out LT to a Colombian street fight for All Out this weekend. If you guys don't know, I mean, I think people know, but like Luke Thomas he's a big dude. He's probably like 300 pounds, like 6'5" or some shit. Like he's really big. No, I would not want to get into a street fight with that guy. Although I've been boxing now for what, 4 months, 3 months, and I've been doing quite well. But no, I would never fight that guy. That guy's the homie too, so no. Cool hand Luke, man, I completely forgot this card was happening. Yep, yeah, it's kind of hidden a little bit. Alex V, excited to wake up and immediately watch fights. Yeah, that's nice. And honestly, like, I don't know about you guys. Obviously, working in media is a little different because at some point, and don't get me wrong, I'm still a fan of MMA. I'm a huge fan. Even if I didn't work in MMA, I would obviously still be watching fights. However, it does become a little bit of a job at some point, obviously, just because this is my job. So you lose a little bit of the fandom. And it's always nice, having your Saturday nights off, so you can hang out with friends, go to dinner, go to the movies, go grab a few beers with your friends, whatever it is. So that's always nice. So whenever there's early cards or Sunday cards, I always enjoy them. It's always a nice little break. But obviously, I don't hate the Saturday night cards either. That's kind of like a routine for me at this point. All right. So Scott Kelly asks, who do you think wins, Whitaker or Adesanya? That's a very good one. So, first of all, I'm really excited for that fight. That fight's going to be amazing. And I recently talked to Shoeface, speaking of the ATT Media Day that I went to in Coconut Creek, Florida last week. I spoke to Shoeface, and man, like you could just see in his face when I brought up Whitaker versus Adesanya, and we had just finished talking about Costa Romero. That dude's excited. And he told me, he's like, yo, that fight could even be better than Robert Whitaker versus Israel Adesanya, which that was one of the best fights of the year. I mean, an amazing war. It just elevated those guys even higher. I honestly believe him. I mean, do we have we not forgotten have we forgotten about Whitaker's wars with Romero? I mean, those just were exciting as hell. Adesanya is another very exciting fighter, and the good thing about that is like Whitaker, at least for his title fights or even against Jack or a few other guys, he's always been like the slick guy, the quick guy, the slick striker, right, against the big powerful dude. Those are kind of like the matchups he's been in. Let me pull up his record just to you know back that up with some names. But that's kind of like the matchups that he's been involved in, right? Against Adesanya, um, this will be the first time that he fights somebody of his same style. And again, they're very different strikers, but in the sense of being slick, sticking to the jab, setting up traps, right? He's fighting another sophisticated striker, not really a berserker type. So let's look at his record here. Mr. Bobby Knuckles. Okay, yeah. So let's look at his last four fights. So he fought Derek Brunson, although Derek Brunson's changing. But nonetheless, at the time he fought him, he was that wild striker, that powerful striker, that knockout guy that will charge at you with all his power, right? He fought Jacare, who's a very good grappler too, but nonetheless, he brings that style. We saw in the White Man, just a complete dog, powerful dude. And then we obviously know who Yoel Romero is. So against Whitaker, this is the first time he fights somebody that slick in a while. Last time he fought somebody of kind of that style, it was against Uriah Hall in 2015. And that was a very young Robert Whitaker. And obviously, since 2015, he's gotten a lot better. And we know what Adesanya can do. I mean, obviously, the fights with Gastelum and just his run up in the middleweight division to win that interim belt has just been amazing. So I honestly think that this is one of my favorite fights. And there is some bad blood there. I don't think a whole lot, but they are verbally attacking each other a little bit. So I gotta admit that always adds a little something to it, right? It raises the stakes. Like, whenever you were in school and like two guys were talking shit and they were gonna scrap at the end of at the end of class, you're always like, oh. So again, it's not super bad blood. It's not like some Daniel Cormier versus John Jones type thing, but it adds a little bit of flavor. I'm not gonna lie. But just the styles, man, that's gonna be a good fight. So to answer your question, I don't know. I am split. I don't know who takes that one. I mean, Adesanya's run has been incredible. I don't know. Whitaker's had a long layoff too, which that's not always good. He's had some serious injuries, so we'll see how he looks after that. I am leaning at Adesanya like 52% and like 48% to Whitaker. Again, it is very close, but ask me this question as the fight gets closer, and maybe I'll have an answer. Alex V, talk about Dos Santos versus the Leech, please. I'm dying for that fight. I did. And yes, you are a very smart man. That is a good fight. Again, if you're just joining, throw your questions on the chat and I'll get to them. All right. Did you agree on Luke's opinion on MMA interviews regarding mostly the ESPN interview with Ariel and Connor video on his channel? So I actually saw like half of it and then I had to do something for work and then I didn't finish viewing his whole video, so I would kind of want to hold back a little bit on that. But I feel like I kind of got the gist of it. And yeah, I would agree with some things that he said. Here are my thoughts on those type of interviews. Obviously, like the higher. So ESPN is a partner with the UFC. We know that, right? Obviously, you can't get the pay-per-views anywhere else but through ESPN. ESPN Plus hosts, Dana White Contender Series, this card that's happening this Saturday. That is clear, right? So there is going to be some degree of conflict of interest. However, I do think a lot of people see that as negative, as like, oh, ESPN, blah, blah, negative. You still need those type of outlets, right? Conor McGregor was not going to give an interview to some other smaller sites. I'll throw, for example, MMA fighting. Not that we are. I mean, we're pretty important in this space, and we've done a lot of great things. I mean, we've been media outlet 4 years in a row. But obviously, he is looking to address something he did wrong in the public, and he's looking to reach the masses, right? Although I'm sure MMA fighting, we have almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube, by the way, which is pretty impressive. I'm sure an interview there would kill it. Being on Sports Center, being on ESPN, that's just a huge platform, right? So he's gonna do that type of interview. So it is important to have those mega platforms. It is important to have those type of interviews, and that interview was telling. I mean, you do get some insight on where Conor McGregor is at. You do get some insight of his future. You do get some insight on how he feels about the situation. I mean, he addressed it. Obviously, there might be some buffer, like a little bit. He was not asked about the sexual allegations from the New York Times articles and things of that nature, but that is for the New York Times to do, right? Investigative journalism and others. So, different media outlets play different roles among the whole MMA media, right? So I do feel like ESPN might get some unfair criticism, but without them, we wouldn't have gotten 40 minutes of insight on Conor McGregor, which I think it's pretty important, even if there is some sort of, uh, PR. What would you call it? Shielding. I don't know. There is some sort of buffer there, right? But nonetheless, I do think these interviews are important, and ESPN being a big platform is going to get a lot of access, which is good, right? Access gives you insight on things, right? Something that smaller outlets can't do. So, again, I didn't see the whole video on Luke's opinion on MMA interviews, but if that's what you're referring to, like that, that's how I feel about it. And he does say something often where like fighters lie all the time, and which is true. And on these interviews are often not real, but yeah, I mean, that's why you got to be a smart interviewer and go about things and try not to have like work interviews or whatever, not work interviews, but try to get the truth. Sometimes it's easier to do it over the phone when you don't have a camera, where you can really dig in a question and ask follow-ups and really indulge in a specific topic rather than, hey, I have 5 minutes on the mic, right? So again, different interviews, different types of interviews, whether it's stories, whether it's on-camera interviews, whether it's behind, whether it's sit-downs, they all serve a different purpose. On-camera interviews, no, you're not going to get the best, if not all the information, but they serve, again, a different kind of purpose. So that's how I feel about interviews. All right, let's see. Lane Bruh asks, can you please talk about Zhang's chances to win? Where does she have the best shot to win the fight? Also, you do great work, man. Thanks. Hey, I appreciate that, Lane Bruh. Yeah, like I said, you can go back and check out what I said about the matchup, but Zhang can't meet Andrade fire with fire, power with power. Yes, she's athletic. Yes, she's very powerful, but Andrade is just miles ahead. I mean, we're talking about a woman that 20 pounds north at bantamweight. Look how big Holly Holm is. I mean, there's a huge size gap, and yet there was some size difference and some power difference, but she hang there. She got some wins at 135, man, and she got some wins using her power too. I mean, she's a strong woman, very strong woman. So Zhang has to Weili Zhang has to avoid that, and she has to be slick. I do believe the right strategy is what Yana and Jacek did in that fight to beat Andrade and defend her title at the time, and also what Rose did in their first round when they fought. Obviously, it ended in a brutal knockout loss for her, but nonetheless, the few minutes building up to that, she was doing fantastic. Stick and move, angles. She's gonna throw looping punches. Right, you wanna slip, weave. Again, just keep that jab on her face. Keep the distance. Make sure you're not backed up against the cage. And I guess now that we know she can slam people into unconsciousness, keep that in mind. Be willing to go with the ground. Be willing to go to the ground to protect yourself from a knockout. And hey, you're on the ground, but at least you're not getting knocked out. So then you can work your way up and figure out a way to get up on your feet. So I think Zhang has to be slick. I think she has the ability to do that, but I don't know if she has the style to do that, like I said. Micah says, what up, compa? ¿Qué pasó, parcero? ¿Todo bien? Holy smokes. This is a very long YouTube name. Mr. Frottingham Matchmaking MMA. Have we seen enough of the challenger to think she can come out with this win? Yeah, I mean, Zhang has 19 straight wins. We haven't really seen her be tested. Usually people people can get tested in wins. Don't get me wrong. Like Israel Adesanya was tested against Robert Whitaker, but often you see people get exposed when they get when they suffer losses, right? Would you see the whole? So in that sense, no, we haven't seen enough of Weili Zhang. I guess we'll find out come Saturday early morning. Let's see. Is it me or the upcoming cards? Hayden Patterson asks. Is it just me or are the upcoming cards incredibly top heavy? Yeah, yeah. This is what happens when you put on so many fights a year. I mean, look at UFC 242, right? Khabib versus Dustin Poirier. Amazing fight. One of my favorite matchups of the year. But then you see the co-main event, Paul Felder versus Edson Barbosa. I love that fight as well. It's a fantastic rematch. It should be very exciting. Looking forward to it. But that co-main event is often something you wouldn't really see on a pay-per-view uh, co-main event. Maybe a main event of a fight night, of a small fight night, maybe a co-main event of a big fight night, but not of a pay-per-view. But nonetheless, again, boxing, and everybody's been saying this for a while. Media's been saying this for a while. MMA is getting closer to boxing, and this is what we're gonna get. You're we're gonna I think we're gonna get to a point again, not to the extreme of boxing, but we are gonna get to a point, and I feel like we are starting to see it in some cards where you're really paying for you're really paying to watch the main event, and then the rest is just a bonus. Again, we just saw what UFC 241 that was stacked the main card, and there will always be those cards. I think the UFC holds, that's important for the UFC to have, especially when they get around those landmarks like UFC 200, etc. They'll stack the shit out of it, even in the early prelims. But yeah, we are gonna see. I feel like more of that. Yep. So yeah, that is a correct assessment. Lane Bro asks again, which UFC champion has the biggest gap between themselves and the best fighter in their division right now, excluding John Jones? Seems like an easy answer. Yeah, that'd be a very easy answer, John Jones. I think following that would be another easy one would be obviously Valentina Shevchenko and everybody else at flyweight. I mean, she's clearly the best by far. Um, Amanda Nunes, I feel like is starting to make that gap. I mean, with her knockout of Holly Holm, you start wondering like, ooh, geez, like who can stop her? And the Jermaine Durandamy matchup is actually an intriguing one. I think if she blasts and just destroys Jermaine, now you start wondering like, okay, this girl might be. We know she's better than everybody else. Obviously, that's why she has the belt and she's defended it. But this girl might be like levels or a level or two above the competition, obviously depending on how that title defense goes. But she's clearly making that case. Who else? Welterweight is pretty competitive. I mean, I can see Kamaru Usman losing the belt to Colby Covington. I can see Israel Adesanya dethroning Robert Whitaker. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I find those fights to be competitive. um Maybe Henry Cejudo a flyweight. I like to see a little bit more of him, but maybe. Um, Bantamweight, I feel like it could be very competitive. Featherweight with Max Holloway, no. I feel like Volkanovski has a shot. Yeah, so I would say obviously light heavyweight, women's flyweight, um, and yeah, those would be the obvious answers. All right. Anthony also asks thoughts on Alejandra Lara, Colombian fighter from Bellator. Yes, I'm actually talking to Alejandra Lara. She's in Italy right now, and I was just let me see if she sent me a WhatsApp. 1 second. I'm actually trying to coordinate an interview with her. So hopefully, I believe I'm talking to her on Saturday, and yeah, so stay tuned for MMAfighting.com. I'll have an update on her. Obviously, she made a big statement talking about the Amazons, which are on fire right now, and it seems the Brazilian government is uh, making very little efforts to save the lungs of the world. Basically, I believe the Amazon provides us like 5% of oxygen, which sounds like small considering the whole 100%, right? But 5% is a significant chunk, and it also hits home because the Amazons also get reach parts of Colombia, so big parts of Colombia, which I actually want to visit. So yeah, she got a pretty nice win over the weekend, and yeah, I'll be talking to her hopefully Saturday, and I will have an update on her. What'd you think of the McGregor interview and Luke Thomas' reaction to it? Was it just PR or solid journalism? Again, you're going to get a little bit of both. They were ready. For example, you see some things, as far as they were ready with the reroll, right? They knew already some of the things that were going to be talked about. Conor McGregor obviously could have stayed shut, but he wanted to come out and put something, especially after that punch at the pub. So he wanted to make some sort of PR move, and often media is used in that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the interview is all again trash, like I said, or not validated. No, we got some incredible insight. 40 minutes, something again. I believe Ariel said McGregor hadn't done an interview since October of last year, so almost a year. Um, yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I thought it was great. Great stuff by Ariel. Great stuff by getting that interview, and we got some insight on Conor McGregor. Did we get the complete insight? Did we get all the questions answered that we wanted to know? No, but again, you have to pay some price for having him on, right? Um, who knows? Maybe he wouldn't have done the interview if certain things would have been asked. You don't know. Again, I don't know that scenario, so I don't know what Ariel's working with, but I thought he did a great job, and I thought he provided us great insight. Again, could have been better, sure, yeah, but a lot of things could be better. Everything could be better. Every interview could be better, right? And again, he has also a certain amount, right? He doesn't have unlimited time, especially when we're talking about a super with Conor McGregor. I'm actually surprised he actually got that much time. Not that I don't believe in Ariel's or ESPN's, reach or whatever or skills, but um, I mean, McGregor he's huge. He doesn't have to do media to promote himself. He can just post a tweet. I mean, he doesn't need media really. Um, but yeah, I thought it was a good interview. I liked it. I enjoyed it, and I watched it all. It was good. Good stuff from Ariel. All right, Pat Brialt asks, "Hey Danny, any news on what DC is thinking about? On what DC is thinking about his future, rematch or retirement?" Well, I don't think DC's head is in MMA right now. We know that a few days ago his dad passed away, which pretty tragic. Actually, a really good friend of mine, her dad recently passed away, right around like my dad's birthday too, which was earlier in August. And like I don't know, and then DC thing came, and I've kind of been thinking about not death, but like I guess mortality and stuff like that. Kind of hit like home, and yeah, once something like that happens, and also coming off a loss. You're not thinking about MMA. You're not thinking about retirement. You want to be with your family. You want to be with your friends. And there's not much you can do, but time is the only thing that heals those kinds of things. And I mean, you can do things to alleviate, obviously, being like with your loved ones, and come at peace with certain things. But yeah, I have no idea. I don't think DC's head right now is focused on MMA, and it shouldn't be. And I think yeah, we should give him his space, especially like media. And I really don't think anyone's that insensible to be like hitting him up for interviews at this point. But my hunch is he comes back. He's gonna take some time off, recover from that war against Stipe. That was a grueling fight. Obviously, recover from his personal loss as well. And I think he'll come back. He's a competitor at heart. He's still a very, very skilled fighter. I mean, he was whooping Stipe before that fourth round. His brand is the biggest it's ever been. His fan support is the biggest it's ever been. There's a lot of money to make for him in this game, and he's still very healthy, although he does have a lot of other avenues, his work with commentating and stuff like that. He also has a pokey business, apparently, one in Miami, and I don't know, I think some in California as well. So I think I wouldn't necessarily think he would come back just for the money, but I mean, keeping in mind that he can make a lot of money, why not, right? And given the fact that he is healthy, that he's still very skilled, he's still an elite fighter, yeah, why not? So I see him fighting again for sure. That'd be my bet. Not in 2019, but 2020 probably. All right, Brandon Music asks, Paige Vincent with some fire on Macy Barber. Is that a great fight? I could see it as a start making opportunity for Macy Barber, and you spelled Barber wrong, by the way. And her John Jones elbows. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Paige Vincent is huge. I think if you're in the MMA bubble, you kind of don't realize how big Paige Vincent is. But I have friends, like girlfriends, that for example, are huge Dancing with the Stars fans, and they know who Paige Van Sant is, and they might not know who many other fighters are, but they know who Paige Van Sant is. Let's see her Instagram. she recently said to Ariel Hawani, um, that she makes more money off Instagram, which is hard to believe, but I mean, apparently Instagram pays a lot of money than actually fighting, which is pretty bizarre, and that's why she's trying to get a fat contract. Jesus Christ! So she's got 2.3 million followers on Instagram. Yeah, dude, people make careers out of Instagram. These influencers, like, they are loaded in money. Instagram's just not Instagram per se. Maybe I don't really know how that works because I'm not an influencer, but sponsors or whatever, just to make a dumb post. Um, yeah, you can make a shitload of money. I think, or was it? I read something like Cristiano Ronaldo, not even for an Instagram post, a story, which is only available for 24 hours. I think he, for like a little story, I think he got paid like, I think it might have been like $5 million for an Instagram story, something that will disappear in 24 hours. It's like something ridiculous. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the most famous athletes in the world today. So yeah, but yeah, people make a shitload of money off that. And yeah, I think that'd be a fine fight. Yeah, why not? I don't really have any strong feelings. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Paige Van Zandt go to Bellator as well. I think there's some interesting fights for her there as well. Um, yeah, especially what she's fighting now at 125, right? Let me see. All right, I gotta go soon, so I'll do like 5 more minutes, and then I gotta dip set. Let's see, Paige Van Zandt. 25 years old, still very young, and yeah, she's fighting at flyweight. So yeah, Ilima. I mean, Bellator's Alejandra Lara, who we just talked about. Valerie Letourneau. I mean, they got a pretty nice division there going. So I wouldn't mind seeing Paige Van Zandt at Bellator. Yeah, why not? And I believe she has one fight left on her contract or something like that. Yeah, maybe, but she's coming close to the end of it. Or if not, she's at the end of it already. Should Connor go back to 145? No way. No way. Connor's not going to make 145 pounds healthy anytime soon. Remember when he fought Floyd Mayweather? That was because the boxing weight classes are weird. That was 152. And he looked drained at making 152. And that is 7 pounds heavier than 145. 7 pounds is a lot. And he looked drained, man. You could see like his eye sockets were sunk in and like his cheekbones were popping out and shit. Like, he's not going to make 145 pounds. He is way too big at this point to make 145 pounds. And he's also older. I believe now he's 32, and your body just retains, your bones get heavier, more minerals get stuck to them. I don't know, but yeah, you just get heavier when you get older, man. That's why I still believe that Holloway's bound to go up to 155 at some point. I thought it was going to come sooner, but it turns out he actually can make 45 pretty sustainable, at least for a few years. But yeah, Connor at 145, nope, that's not happening. Dude's gonna fight at 155. That's his weight class. All right. Lane Brass, I heard Dana is going to use the UFC format for Sufa boxing. How big of a names could they get right off the bat? Or do you think they will try to build their own names up? I think a little bit of both. I think there's going to be some sort of talent acquisition as well as talent development, and the UFC. There's things that the UFC can offer the model of boxing and the boxing world that boxing promoters can't, right? So I do think they could have some interesting success. Again, I am not a huge into boxing, even though I've worked as media in boxing. I've interviewed a few prominent names, doing some freelance work early in my career. But I think there's people that are probably better suited to answer that question. My homie, hot dog eating, um, Brian Campbell would be an excellent person to ask that question to. All right, I'll take one more question. I'm out. Let's see. Page versus Lima, best Bellator 125 fight. Yeah, that'd be the biggest fight they'd make at 125. Obviously, the current champion and huge star, Paige Van Zandt, who, she's legit. She's a good fighter. She's a pretty skilled fighter. And, again, 2.3 million followers on Instagram and given her name and Dancing with the Stars and all this. Yeah, that'd be a big fight that I think a lot of people would watch. Can Bellator afford her? Yeah, I think so. I mean, Bellator is backed by Viacom, who Viacom's a huge company, has a shitload of money, and yeah, they've paid. I mean, I don't know exactly sums, but I'm sure I'm sure they could probably afford her. Yeah, maybe. Again, how much is she making in the UFC? What's her last? Let's see. Page Vincent pay. All right. Let's see. So when she fought, the last fight was against Rachel Ostovich. So according to this site, the last time she made hmm, against Ostovich, she made, I don't know if this is true. She made $91,000, 43 to show, 43 to win. Yeah, I mean those are sums that are I think pretty accessible to Bellator. I think Bellator can pay higher than that. Yeah, the UFC. I mean, I think Pedro Van is a commodity, so I think the UFC would probably up that and match that and try to keep her. That would be my guess. I think she has a lot of value to the company. But yeah, I mean, Bellator can definitely pay more than $91,000 per fight. Yeah, I think some of the champions like Ryan Bader and some others. I think they pay them more than that. So yeah, why not? All right, I'll answer one more and I'm out. I gotta bounce. Are you coming to the Tampa card? You know what? Maybe I'm gonna ask my editor if he can send me. That is Watterson versus Young J Chick. Hopefully, yeah. I'd love to go to Tampa. In fact, the first event I've ever covered for MMA fighting, in with Ariel, and that was the first preview and post fight show I ever did with Ariel Hawani. It was in Tampa. It was when Habib fought Daryl Horcher, and yeah, it was a good card. It was a fun time. So Tampa has a fond place in my heart. Has a good place in my heart. That was the first event I ever covered for MMAfighting.com. I was just a kid, and damn, looks like something's on fire in the neighborhood. But anyways, yeah, I love Tampa. Tampa's a dope spot. It's cool. Plus, I have a lot of friends that went to USF, Go Bulls. You know, Tampa's a fun place. It's a cool place. All right, so that's it. This is 47 minutes too long. I gotta bounce. Thank you guys for joining in this little UFC Shenzhen preview. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for submitting questions. If you are new, please give this video a thumbs up, new or old. If you're new, give subscribe to the channel and tell your friends about it. And that's about it. So that's all I got. I'm trying to grow this thing and hopefully turn it into a little something. I mean, this is my project, and yeah, I've been having fun with it, and this is cool. This is fun, and I hope to keep making more of these videos. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. You enjoy the fights this weekend with a good cup of coffee, Colombian, if you gotta, if there's a choice. And yeah, morning fights are not bad. Morning fights are not bad at all. So you enjoy them and watch that main and co-main event. Those are two really good fights. So yeah, that's all I got. I'm out of here. Peace.